Right, yeah, we're off and rolling.
Well,
So, how did we get started at
how did we get
Tuncurry?
started? God, well, I think we've got to realise that in the early days there was a hell of a lot of twin town rivalry, shall we say. We had people in Tuncurry
Oh, no.
who would refuse to cross the bridge. You know, they'd go shopping in Taree to avoid being seen at Forster. So it was most of it was, the idea of this golf course was started by Tuncurry blokes. Mick Constable was a retired school principal, not a golfer. Duncan Dark, retired school teacher, not a golfer.
He was on the council, wasn't he?
He's on the council, yeah. We had Bert Tickner, who was entrepreneur, developer, and he owned land. He originally owned the old racecourse estate.
Oh, yeah.
And it was his idea to build a golf course in the middle of that so he could sell his blocks of land around it. And that's where it all started. And they had a committee going, and oh, this is great. And then Bert announced one day that he'd sold the land. And the whole thing sort of said, oh. Then someone said, apparently, well, why don't we build a golf course on the other side of the road, which is the beach side, on Crown land. And that's where it started, as that idea.
Okay.
Because it was a beautiful site for a links-style golf course.
So when did David Walker from the Lands Office get involved?
Well, when that first application went in, when they went to Lands Department Taree, David Walker was the chief surveyor of Lands Department Taree. And he was a gun golfer. Played a lot of golf at Forster. I've played with him a fair few times. Terrific bloke. And so he thought the idea was fantastic. So once they got Lands Department on side, I'm sure he pulled a lot of strings to get the original approval for it. So that's how it basically started from that point.
Yeah.
And so a few local identities. I mean, Jack King was the barber at Tuncurry. Funny bloke. And but he was dead keen to have a golf course at Tuncurry to avoid having to go across the bridge. so
some things don't change.
No, some things they don't change. And well, the other thing that happened in quite not so much earlier than that, but about 79, I was involved with Air Great Lakes, and one of my old schoolmates, a fellow called Shorty Allen, Shorty because he was tall, operated Great Lakes Air Charter off the airstrip, and did joy flights and stuff. But we always talked about having a commuter airline service between Forster and Sydney.
I've seen some YouTube footage of planes and air clubs and everything landing on that strip.
Well, it was on Wallace Island. The idea was Wallace Island, because Wallace Island airstrip, fantastic airstrip, built during the war, I think. And it took DC-3s and things like that. And Tuncurry airstrip was never really a good airstrip because it had the wrong alignment. The prevailing wind from the northeast was always sort of on the quarter. So
when you first went across the beach side, I think you're saying the other day that the original holes built are not.
They're not.
Oh no, not the original design.
I know the exact.
Yeah, go on.
Well, actually, they decided to build the new clubhouse to the right of the 17th green.
Yep.
And the 17th green now was the 18th good finishing hole. They were going to build tennis courts, bowling greens, plenty of parking near the practice fairway. And so they only built 11 holes originally. And but then I'll tell you first the layout. The first hole under the original was what is now the second,
Right.
that
Yeah.
towards the
Yeah.
clubhouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you went straight across the road, and the second became the third.
Yeah.
The third now becomes
The original
the second,
Yeah.
and so on. And when you got back to the ninth, it was the eighth.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
The ninth was what is now the first hole,
Yeah.
up towards the new clubhouse.
Right.
Then the 10th was the 18th. We've now played as the 18th.
Right.
And then the 11th is the 10th, and then on as they go.
Yeah.
And finish at the 17th, which was the 18th.
18th. Yeah.
So,
Well, when did what year was all of that? When did that all finish and was in use?
I'd say,
Well,
in the 80s.
yeah, all the negotiations and stuff started late 70s, 78, 79. And you know, they had a lot of trouble with council, getting council approval for it as well.
Was one of my things to ask, what sort of DA approval?
Well, I mean, coincidentally, and whether it was a good thing or bad thing, I was elected to council in 1980. And I thought, oh, this is a go. I'll be able to, get a bit done for this Tuncurry Golf Course that's on the way.
Yeah.
And someone pointed out to me that once you get on council, if you have any sort of a conflict of interest, you're supposed to declare it and leave the room. So whenever Tuncurry Golf Course came up for discussion, I was outside. So I remember when I think it was Mick Constable and Fred or someone came over to speak to council. I was outside, and but I did do a bit of lobbying on the inside. You know, pretty hopeless, shall I say, in those days, even though I was on the council.
So that was late 70s.
That was late 70s. Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, I think they actually started work before they'd got formal approval, which is very common in this town. and I think the formal approval didn't come through till sort of 80, 81 or something like that. You know, that era. And they'd already sort of started doing a bit of clearing and stuff and
for the 18.
Designing the 18.
So when did Mike Cooper get involved?
He got in pretty early in the piece when Freddie
Back
Young,
on the 11 holes.
Yeah, Freddie Young knew him from
it was
Newcastle.
18 he designed,
Yeah.
but they only did 11
11.
the first run.
Yeah.
It took some years.
That's because blokes kept getting lost in the bush.
Yes.
Jack Dickey, he's gone now, so we can
We
mention
can
his
talk about
name.
him.
Yeah,
He wandered off for some reason or other, and
He was a short bloke
couldn't
as well.
find him.
Yeah, like
we couldn't, about my size he was, a big bloke. And but he, I remember it. But they had a contractor in to bulldoze the fairways.
Wiley Parker, the fellow's name was. He was from Firefly. I
The
know him very
architect went through and put ribbons on the trees, and that was his line to knock everything down. And it was our job to pull it out of the bushes into the middle and burn it.
Yeah. And before it started, you were saying the right-hand side of the airstrip driving in was what it looked like.
well. Yeah.
So how in the hell did Cooper and that get through and work out where to go?
It was amazing how
Amazing.
he did
Yeah,
it.
we did it. Yeah,
So-
yeah, and I mean, as a surveyor, the surveyors in those days really had to clear a line so that they had line of sight. These days they just use GPS.
Yeah.
But no GPS in those days. They had
no
tracks and-
flyovers or anything.
nothing like that. No. So it was quite a job. To
So
sort.
Cooper designed the 18 holes, but originally only 10 were built.
11.
11,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
And that finished in late 70s,
No, finished in 84.
84.
They had the official opening of the 11 holes in
Okay.
84.
84, yeah.
So Lionel Clark, who was
Yeah.
Golf New South
He was
Wales,
golf,
Yeah,
he was also a Newcastle bloke.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
He had the
I
official opening.
knew him.
Did you?
Yeah. So he came up for the official open. That's the big
Yeah,
log.
that's
the
the
big
big log,
Did that come
yeah.
off the club, the grounds?
Where they
I don't
come-
know. No, I think it might have been donated by
I don't know where they come from.
John Machin or a sawmill crowd from
Oh,
memory.
yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember. I
So,
can't say.
so 1984 was it May 84?
Something like that. Yeah,
I can't remember that. So that was the 11 holes.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's
So,
why
well-
the 11 holes we played had to make up 18.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they built a bit of a shed there to put some our old equipment in.
Yeah.
And then they had to work out how to, and we got this layout we've got now. And there was we didn't have a clubhouse. A lady.
Nolly Simpson, her name was. She
That's her name.
she
She owned
bought
two
an old,
houses.
bought an old house around in Wells Street in Forster, and donated the house, provided the club transported it across. So they had to engage a contractor to get the house across the bridge,
They had to cut it in half
cut it in half,
and bring it, and they put some.
yeah, Freddie Young and Brucey Tudor and those blokes jacked it up
Put it up on
and built
stilts.
all
And
inside
built
for
underneath.
the club rooms.
And that's what we've got now.
That's what
That's
we got
right.
now. And everyone
And
wants
pulled some walls out up top,
Yeah.
redesigned.
Well, I've talked about new clubhouses and everything for a long time, but everyone say, oh, no, nothing wrong with this one. It's perfect as it is.
So where did all the money come from?
It cost $10 to join to be a member,
Good question.
but you didn't get a game of golf.
No
They
golf
just
course.
took you could put in, pay for the benches,
Yeah.
and which a lot of us did.
Like I was talked into getting involved by Freddie Young, who's the arch enthusiast.
He was the-
he just talked to
He
everyone.
was it. He was the
He
man.
wanted me to be treasurer. I said no way in the world. Well, I'll be auditor and come to your committee meetings. And one of the reasons why I didn't want to be treasurer was because I thought the whole thing was going to collapse. I didn't think they had the money. And it's interesting. They call for membership, and at that stage the estimate for a building cost of 9 holes was 120 grand or 140 grand or something like that. And so they got 200 odd members at $10 a throw. So that's 8 grand. That's only 112 to go. You know? So we talked about debentures, and between Johnny Vaughan and me, we organised the debentures certificate, which weren't really debentures at all, because debentures are supposed to be secured by some sort of an asset.
Yeah.
They weren't. They were just unsecured notes.
Interest free.
No, 10% interest, but the interest was, no one could pay the interest. Interest was payable at the end of the term, in the 3 years, and 10%, and wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you can donate the interest if you like, you know. So, within a matter of...
The interest is what we've got today.
Yeah.
I didn't get the interest.
No, nor did I. But there's so much enthusiasm around. We'd got promises of over $50,000 within a matter of a couple of months, and we were saying, well, this is pretty exciting. And we found, and we had a couple of bank managers in the club, and they figured that they could borrow some money from the bank, but they needed cash in the kick, and we issued these debentures, but people didn't put the money in, and they promised, oh yeah, we'll give you $500 or we'll give you $1,000, but they'd say, oh, we'll wait for a while to see if it actually gets going, and it won't get going unless you put your money in. So eventually we got about 40, I think, Les, out of the 50 in cash money.
Yeah.
They went to the Bank of New South Wales, which is now the West Bank.
Yeah.
And in those days, one of the volunteers was a retired bank manager from the ANZ, a fellow called Doug Dowling. Remember Doug Dowling?
Don't remember him.
I think he might have been influential. They got approval for a loan of $99,000. Now, that might seem like an odd amount. It was because in those days, the local manager could approve up to $100,000. And I went, how they were ever going to pay back the debentures and pay back the bank loan, I will never know.
Yeah.
Now, the projections that we try to do, or I try to do, to project out, what sort of revenue from golf and so on, they're never going to. We'd have to continue to rely on volunteers to maintain the golf course. You've got to have a club facility, otherwise, people won't come.
Did you get a liquor license?
Liquor license, you got to be jacked. So it became clear that the only possible way of survival was to join up with the Forster Golf Club, and that happened in '84.
That was when Bill Tyson was the president.
Bill Tyson was president.
He was the president, Bill Tyson, and the board voted, and there was one dissenter.
But I went to an AGM, and it was the AGM when John Darcy replaced Bill as president. And that was the AGM where the club voted, and they got a majority. Went through.
It was vicious.
Oh yeah.
It was like a federal election, abusing
yeah.
each other.
Oh, yeah.
Those that didn't want it go over. 200 members of Forster Golf Club also were members of the $10 entry fee.
That's why I went
and you
through.
know what would happen in the end? That 200 would move over.
The clubhouse at Forster, that AGM, was full. There would have been, I don't know, I don't have the numbers, but 300 or 400 people there at an AGM, unheard of.
From what I have been told back in the 80s, that Forster Clubhouse, or Forster, was extremely well off.
It was what they had the money.
They did very well, yeah.
Tuncurry.
There was no RSL down the road, so
No
therefore
RSL.
everybody
And the
flocked to the golf club.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was a vibrant
They
club
were.
in those days. A lot of young. Well, I was only 34, 35 at the time, and so there's a lot of people, mainly blokes, that around about my age in the club, and it was a really, really vibrant.
But it got very nasty
But
between...
there was a schism within the club. I mean, it's still there now, isn't it? Really, when you
us
think about it.
and them.
Oh, it's a rival town
Still there.
process.
Still
Us
there.
and them.
Still there.
But I used to hear rumours. They'd be talking to me, and I was keen on Tuncurry, and someone who was keen on Forster got talking to me, and the things he was saying were outright lies.
A lot.
And he was, and they were saying they're going to sell Forster because now it looked like it was going to happen. It was the fairways were done, the greens were being done up, no grass yet, but it was to the point when it was obviously going to get open one day, and it was then that the nastiness kept in, and there were rumours around that mateships
was approached.
mates broke up, and there's even a rumour that some married couples broke up.
So,
It was nasty.
so that's 84.
Well,
85.
John Darcy, I think he came on the scene at '84.
He built
that's
John L.
That's
Park.
when we had 11 holes up and
A
going.
big developer,
He was a
John L.
developer,
Park.
John L. Park, and so he had machinery. He had a lot of experience in property development and stuff. So, and he was a real live wire, wasn't he? Darcy was.
Yeah,
was
a bit mad, I think.
Oh yeah, and at 100 miles an hour, like and trod a lot of toes, but got things done. And it was amazing that the final 7 holes were completed within another 12, 18 months.
All right. Yep.
And it's just incredible. You think from just white sand to fairways in one season. Incredible. They did that, what do they call it? Stolonising or
They got the grass for the second 7 from the original 11, and they stolonise the ground, which rips it up and quite a few volunteers come over for that,
Spread it out
women
over
and
the
all,
field.
and they'd bring over your trailer and fill it up, and you take it down and you'd throw it around, and they had a big roller with bridges on it, and it was pushing it into the ground
All right.
over and over.
So it's sort of creating runners.
And the irrigation was one of the big issues, wasn't it? I mean, getting irrigation, they had all sorts of scrounged irrigation stuff, and motors. When Georgie Johnson, who's the plumber at Tuncurry,
Plumber, yeah.
he put a lot of spear points in for the original watering, the first 11. Then they scrounged irrigation stuff. And that's why the irrigation piping was all higgledy-piggledy. Different size, wrong size, and they used second-hand stuff. But it got the job done.
Well, the dam that's there, originally Fred Young decided we needed a dam, and he found an area where the tide come up and there was water.
The water used to lay there.
So he decided that's where the dam would be. But to get the dam, they had a contractor, a sand contractor, who sold sand, and the deal was he would put the road in and he could dig out all the sand for the dam and he could take that away for nothing.
Yep.
So we got the dam for nothing and he got the sand
Yeah.
for doing the
The only
work.
problem was, and it wasn't commonly known,
Illegal.
that it was illegal because we were supposed to get permission from the Crown Land, the Lands Department, to move sand.
So we got a Crown Land audit coming up next
Yeah,
week,
well,
so we'll
yeah.
send you guys along.
Well, so it was all done, and then someone got wrapped over the knuckles afterwards after that.
But the dam was to be bigger, but a new board come in and got cold feet and it was cut off. And so the dam's not like that.
I thought I heard that around the dam and underneath there was some natural springs, and there's a actual tap or valve on the eighth fairway in front of the ladies' tee on the left or something.
They used to get the water. But we used to drink in the early days because it was,
used to drink
there
bore
was no
water.
town water. I mean, the toilets and everything were on this spearpoint water. It was beautiful water, really, a bit brackish.
Well,
when
there
it
was a
got dry
bit
times.
brackish on the
Yeah, and some of the areas were a bit brackish.
that side over toward the
But
ocean.
it's not so much spring; it's a water table just under the surface, and
But
that's why in really wet times that water table comes up and we get.
there was one they put a bubbler on, with bits and pieces, and the one at the 16th was behind the 15th green, and then behind the 15th green and behind the ladies' 16th. There was a bore there, and the water was that good that members used to bring jars in
containers.
and fill them up and take them home.
Yeah, well, that because the health and safety sort of eventually loomed sagely ahead, and they said
I believe
not,
there was
not allowed to
someone died in Adelaide drinking bore
drink
water,
water.
and the board got scared and knocked them all over.
Yeah,
So what about Freddie Young?
he's a legend.
He's the legend.
He's the legend, and
He-
What'd you
should call
say?
it-
5 days of work, 24 hours a day, and then
That's
2 days
it.
of golf.
That's it.
He'd come over on his own and work away.
Freddie was a builder in Newcastle and moved, sort of semi-retired, and moved up here in the 70s, I think. And,
It wasn't the 70s.
and he used to do a bit of work around the place with he and Brucey Tudor, who was a builder as well. And Fred was a member of Murray, Raymond Terrace, where he scrounds a lot of stuff. But Freddie was Tuncurry Golf Course. I mean, they should call it the Freddie Young Golf Course.
They
I reckon. Yeah. Without him, there is no doubt in this wide
would not have
world
gone
that
ahead.
it would not. It would still be scrubbed.
He travelled to Sydney, to Newcastle, to Taree, all free
Yeah.
to do all the deals.
Were you on the notorious trip to Stroud to get the manure, the chicken manure?
No, I didn't go.
apparently they took a truck down and they decided they'd get this stuff on the cheap because there was a chicken shed which was been closing down or something, so they get that. They organised a truck and a loader. But the loader they had could only just get over the side of the truck, so just put a bit of manure over there. And these blokes had to get up the back with shovels, shoveling this old chicken manure, which was 90% manure, 10% heads, chicken heads, legs, dead rats. And when they came home, they stunk and they smelt for a week. But it was very effective, and it's proven that really chicken manure is the best for that.
Yeah.
Of course.
Fred did another deal while we had to dig the trenches by hand and bring your own mattock and shovel. And Fred got onto the telecom, as it was then, and got onto the supervisor. I don't know whether he knew him, but he got onto him and said, "You must have dead time where you've got no work for your men." And he said, "That's correct." He said, "Well, we'll do a deal. We'll give you 2 18-gallon kegs of beer for your Christmas party if you come out every now and then." And we'd be digging away, and next thing the truck would turn up. Thank you. And they'd dig the trenches, they were like that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
For the
And they just go along
irrigation.
and do it.
Imagine 6 or 7 k's
Saves a lot of time.
trenching. I would do a hell of a lot of trenching.
Oh, it was. Miles and miles of it, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Good
Fred set out where to go. He had all the...
So Fred was the chief
He was
marshal.
organiser.
He was the organiser and the
boss.
builder.
And,
The architect only come up once a month.
in fact, I think between Fred and Noel Collins and those blokes, they basically designed the greens. You know, they said, "Oh, we'll put a bit of a fall here." How big is it? Oh, I don't know. That's big enough. They got the greens. They got the green grass. The greens. I think the original greens grass was from the bowling club or something, wasn't it? They didn't know they were changing.
No, the original one was, I've got it here. Fred went to get Pencross. Pencross was the popular seed. In those days, a very fine one, and for the greens. And when he went to get it, there was none available. So they had one called Pen Eagle. And that's what we've got, and it's a broader leaf. So it's not the smooth ones that you get on some of these other courses. And so Fred, and on the grass, Kellnagel's son was a member of Forster, and he had a turf farm out between Taree and Wingham, somewhere out in that area, and so they got him to supply the turf. And it was called, what was that called?
Cooch.
No, it was a hybrid cooch, but it was one South Australian place, at any rate. I know it, but I'll think of it one day.
It was sort of sprigs, wasn't it? When it wasn't sort of like your normal turf where you lay it. They'd sprig it along in rows.
The machine, there's you bring sods. Yeah. And you'd put a sod in, and the machine would cut it up into about that big, and then dig a trench as it went, and drop it in, and then a bit more soil. And that's how it was done all the way. And that, of course, later on caused hollows between the sods, the little sods.
Yeah. Good. What was Pick Up Sticks Day?
Oh God,
Pick up sticks day.
I'd go out there, I'd go out for a look because I wasn't much good at any of that sort of stuff. And you'd see all these people, women and blokes, picking up sticks, filthy, dirty.
We used to get very black.
Well, you can imagine the sticks and roots and stuff still sticking out of ground.
We had to dig them out.
They all come out. And burning off there was always fires going out there, and that Banksia doesn't burn. All it does is turn black. So
And you got all the
keep
right
back up
council
again.
approvals and everything for
What?
lighting fires
Oh,
and
yeah.
fire brigade.
Yeah.
We
Never
nearly-
burnt the
we
town
nearly
down.
burnt Tuncurry once.
Well, Georgie Perkins was the local fire captain, so he was over at Forster site. So I
Yeah,
think,
that's right.
he probably was there standing in the ring.
He wasn't there that day
No,
when it was one of the big fires it was.
Yeah.
Gotta wait.
But there was lots of things there, I think.
Yeah, so the pickup 6 day wasn't that every Friday? Was it
Something like that, yeah.
Every
Well,
Friday
was the main day,
Yeah,
the big
most
day.
of them came,
Actually, once they finished the 11 holes, a lot of the volunteers dropped off. And then they started the other 7. And
Well, that time
when
it was
that was-
taken over. The
and
Foster
when-
was
when that
taken it over.
Foster had merged, they
And
merged.
they had a couple of staff, green staff over there employed full time.
So money went in a bit and
Yeah.
They had the
machinery and
money.
everything came
Bit of
in.
machinery.
Yeah.
But and it finished up, there was about 6 of us left.
So
as
what happened?
volunteers.
What happened to the debentures?
The benches were repaid. I think. Well, most
Repaid
of
by
a
Foster.
few,
When
yeah,
Foster had the money.
A few people, I think, probably
Didn't
said
get
don't
any.
bother, but
No, it
I had
was-
my hand out really quick, and it just we took going back to about 120, which I think eventually they adjusted up to $140,000. Doesn't seem much, but on today's money, it's over $1 million.
That's right. Yeah.
And it was scary. But when Foster Club took over, the debentures were repaid in 3 years. I don't know how many people put their hand out for the interest, but a fair few people didn't.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So as far as the finance, once Foster had taken control, well, it was pretty much go ahead from then. That Ray Strawn we had, he was good, wasn't he? He was.
Well, we
he
got
was a
him.
greenkeeper.
Fred Young went down to the Australian Golf Club and saw the head greenkeeper, and he said, "We're looking for someone to lay the greens." What was seed? And he said, "Well, you couldn't. There's a fellow that we had here, and he was the number 2, and he left here, and he lived at Wingham, and he had a nursery. He gave up golf, I think, and he said he's excellent." So Fred went to see him and asked him would he do the greens, and he said yes, he did. And I remember when the greens
They were
when it came up,
the
I
best
had-
greens.
I went
They
down
were
and
the
had
best
a look at
greens in the
them,
district. They were fantastic.
and I said to him, this Ray Strawn, every single seed germinated. There was not one blemish
Bare
anywhere.
patch. The greens were just
And
out of
one day I played there.
hard and
One day,
fast.
a few years later, I was playing on and the vice captain of the Australian was a visitor. When we finished, he said, "I'd love to take your greens back to the Australian."
Well, ultimately, Ray ended up in Newcastle. My brother's a member of Royal Newcastle.
Well-
And he rang me up one day and he said, "Oh, by the way, thanks very much." I said, "Why?" He said, for giving us Ray Strawn. Ray Strawn turned around the greens in Newcastle, and he was a hero down
He
there.
was a workaholic.
Yeah.
He
7
wouldn't
days
let
a week.
anyone else touch the greens, mow them with a narrow mower,
Hand
not the
water,
big
that's
one.
it. Yeah, a little narrow mower.
And he wouldn't let anyone else. I was his offsider every Friday. He'd take off and he'd have a big 44-gallon drum and he'd mix, and I'd be hooking up hoses, and we got working well. And he used to do something to the greens every Friday morning. He was spraying with a Verta spray, something, what they call. Used to spray out like that. And I'd say, "What are we doing today?" And he says, "Oh, I want to kill some weed," and you couldn't even see it. He said, "Oh, he noticed 1 or 2, and he kept them in perfect condition."
So what about what was it? The first comp day, and
Well,
the prize for
Well, I think the ladies played the first official comp.
Now, that was when it was 18.
Oh, was it? Oh, right.
The 11, they had the first comp day, and this David Walker come down, of course, and
that's the
That's
surveying
no, he
land
was
stuff,
the
the land
Tari,
Yeah, Tari.
and he come down, and the club put on a prize. Anyone that can birdie the 10th would get a bottle of scotch. David Walker did it. He birdied the 10th.
That's the current 10th hole, or
The current 10th hole, yeah. He birdied.
Yeah, you could play the game.
And he got the bottle of scotch. I had a birdie on the 15th.
Oh, very good.
He was a bit longer in those days.
A little bit, yeah.
And taller.
I was taller, yeah.
Yeah. So there we go.
How are we going?
Any other stories? Any other characters?
No, I think we've covered it pretty well, Jeff. I mean, there's lots, heaps of stories. There's probably 1,000 stories out there.
Well, L.B. Parker was the starter.
Albie Park, yeah.
L.B. Park, he was the starter, and a very funny man. And someone would be late arriving, and Jim McCall I was playing with him all the time, and Jim would be coming in when we were on the tee, and he used to say over the microphone, "The late Jim McCall."
Yeah.
He was a
Yeah,
character.
he used to.
He lived in the caravan
the
there.
little caravan around the back. Where the
He
men
was
worked.
here when I first got
Yeah.
in.
Was
Yeah,
he?
yeah.
A very funny man.
Yeah, in the
Died.
pro shop, he got cancer.
Lung
or something.
cancer.
Yeah. No, it's well, that goes back early 2000s. Yeah, no, I
It
remember
was
that.
interesting that someone asked, I think it was, I don't know how long ago, maybe, it was when, a few years ago anyway, someone asked me about the Great Lakes Country Club and why the sign was still there on the clubhouse.
It's above the doorway.
Hmm?
It's above the doorway.
Yeah, and the contract that we had, John Vaughan wrote, John and I, and we wrote in that the name of the course would remain as Great Lakes Country Club. So the contract between Great Lakes Country Club Limited, if you like, and Forster Golf Club Limited had in that contract said that the name was to remain Great Lakes Country Club. Now, not particularly binding, mind you, but that was the story behind that.
Yep. And it still runs around today.
Yeah, it
Still runs around. Yep. Just had all of that.
Mm.
How big were the fields on Saturdays, or what days were the days? Or
Well, see, that was the era of
Like in
Greg
the
Norman.
mid-80s.
Greg Norman was
and
around.
golf was just so popular, and the course was full. They locked the gate overnight, of course, and you had to put your name down a week before, as we do now. But people were queuing in their cars, waiting for the gate to open. I went there one morning, and here's this bloke, the first one, in his pajamas, in his car. Yeah. And
How'd you get over there that
at 6
quickly?
o'clock in the morning. This is 5:30, 5:45 in the morning, and these blokes are waiting to get a tee time.
Well, the Tuncurry course,
Well, same with Forster.
They
Those
used-
courses were
they were both
really,
full even on Saturday, and you couldn't get a going. So they had an arrangement that you turn up, say, to Tuncurry, and you'd pick a number out, number one, and no one could book in until 11 o'clock. That's for the late
the afternoon.
start.
So they split the day. Had morning tickets and
They'd be
afternoon
there
tickets.
early to get number one, and then you could put 4 names down. And there were people never got a game of golf.
I think I've seen. I'm not sure if I saw it at Tuncurry or Forster, but there was a timesheet, the old timesheet, and it was folded over and stuck down a bit before 11 o'clock.
And the pro would
So the afternoon guys
at 11
turn up, and then
o'clock,
they can go and put their names down.
Would you say, come on, it's time.
I've seen some board figures of, especially Forster. I remember anyway. It's 250 in a field.
that's
on a
Oh
Saturday-
yeah,
on a
and
Saturday.
that was over 200 was
And that was
the
because
Forster.
of 2 tees, yeah.
Yeah, and
And I'm sure when I got here in about 2001, we used to get 100 on a Sunday in the mixed events.
But they were packed both courses all the time. It was amazing. Greg Norman. I spoke to the pro when I first got here, Peter
Craig.
I said to him one day, how's things going, Pete? This is a Forster. And he said, it's boomed since Greg Norman come along. He said, my sales have doubled in the last few years. That's how important Norman was to the club. And,
But luckily,
to golf.
when they put the acid on Peter Craig to open a pro shop, Tuncurry, he wasn't overly keen because he already had a couple of staff, and he would have had to employ 2 or 3 more staff because he and Shirley, his wife, would work. They were working 7 days a week. Mind you, he'd come out and play golf with us every Friday afternoon, but he basically said no originally. No, I can't afford to employ another 3 people for Tuncurry. And I was his accountant at the time. He said, well, I'm going to do that. I said, well, hit him for a retainer. And so he did. He said, right, I'll open it if you give me a retainer to cover the wages. And they came good eventually, so he opened up. But it was always a bit of a burden for him because he never had room for his stock, for all his usual gear. So it was a bit of a burden for him, but he stuck it out.
Good.
Yeah.
All good?
All good?
Yep. Well done.
Is that
Thanks,
enough?
guys. Yeah, that's great.
That should keep him